Robert Englund has been a household name for horror fans since he first gave a generation of kids nightmares in 1984. But there's so much more to the man than just Freddy Krueger. Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story, explores Englund's entire professional life, delving into the personal, and shows that Freddy Krueger is just part of the story. The logical way the documentary is laid out is actually brilliant in its simplicity. The story starts at the beginning, with Englund himself talking about his origins finding acting and how his family felt about it. This may seem like a no-brainer, but there are a lot of angles the doc could have taken. Given that Englund is so well known for his portrayal of Freddy Krueger, it was probably tempting for directors Christopher Griffiths and Gary Smart to really lean on that heavily straight away. Non-linear storytelling was definitely an option, and not a bad one, but the fact that we start off with Englund talking about finding acting as a young teen makes the project more about the man than any single role. This really feels like the perfect time for a documentary on Robert Englund. I don't mean specifically right now at this point in time for all of us, but at this time in Englund's life. At 75 years old, Englund has been acting for over 60 years, professionally for about 50. That means he's seen a ton, done a ton, and knows a ton. He's also, thankfully, still with us. Englund didn't make this documentary, but he's the primary narrator and storyteller, so we know it's the real deal. Far too many times after a public figure's passing are there books, stories, movies, and documentaries that are, well, questionable, or worse. Sorry, Tupac, maybe one day they'll get it right. Not only do we get to spend a ton of time hearing Englund tell his own story, the shape of the man is fleshed out through conversations with people he's worked with his entire career. From his Nightmare on Elm Street co-star, Heather Langenkamp, sorry about the pronunciation, to horror fanatic Eli Roth, we get a really good idea of who Englund is when the cameras are off. The biggest guest I didn't know I needed in this documentary, Nancy Englund, Robert's long-term wife. The story of how they met and the way they still feel about each other is very endearing. Further interviews are done with, but not limited to, Tony Todd, Kane Hodder, Lance Henriksen, Bill Moseley, Lynn Shea, Mick Garris, Andrew Divoff, William Catt, Jeffrey Reddick, and Corey Taylor. At this point, I've mentioned a few times that we explore Englund beyond Freddy Krueger. For those of you who are only interested in that aspect of his life, well, shame on you. But don't worry, there's plenty to talk about on how Englund handled that role. From his daring attempt to stand out in his audition, all the way up to guesting as Krueger on ABC's The Goldbergs. There's even a fascinating story of how Englund helped make Star Wars the movie that would launch one of the largest franchises in film history. The construction of the documentary gives a lot to hold your attention visually. The interviews are well shot, the whole setup feels very professional, and the sound quality is consistent throughout. The studios who have supported Englund's work over the years are all on board to provide clips and behind-the-scenes photos to go along with the story. The movie clips and musical cues from his career ignite sense memories in you that will take you back to your own personal experiences watching Englund, which helps you feel like you're more part of the documentary, going along the ride with someone you've known for a long time. Delving into Englund's past gave me a larger appreciation for a man I already had a ton of respect for. He didn't get into acting to find a horror icon and ham it up through the years cashing checks. He's a very real actor who's done a ton of movies. A bunch we've all probably seen, and a bunch that we should, and I will be, seeking out. Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story, debuts on Screambox on June 6th, with a Blu-ray release following on July 25th. Thanks.